Hey, what's up, guys? It's Enigma Hood, and Dave Mirra has committed suicide. The BMXer. I first read about this on IGN. They were covering it because Dave Mirra, similar to Tony Hawk, created some popular video games back in the olden days of the PS1. I never played his video games, and I never followed BMX. But I do remember Dave Mirra from the MTV Real World Road Rules challenges. He used to be a host of at least 2 seasons of those shows. So nobody really knows why he committed suicide. It's really shocking and baffling. But, you know, in a way, like, it kind of always is when these kinds of things happen. He had a family, he had a wife, he had kids, he was rich, he had a beautiful home, he had a career that he could be proud of. So, you know, it's kind of like, well, why would he do this? You know, it's so hard. I posted something like this on my Facebook. You know, it's so hard for me to understand why certain people commit suicide. There's some people where I can understand why. There's like some kind of tangible problem in their life. Like maybe they have trouble communicating with people. So they're very closed off to other people. They don't make friends easily. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe their wife cheated on them, you know, etc., etc. There's something there, something tangible that happened that caused them to be depressed in a natural way. Well, what happened in his life? You know, there could have been something tangible, but we just don't know. But it's also entirely equally possible that there was something in his head that was causing him to be depressed without cause, you know. Depression happens like that. You know, chemical imbalance. There are lots of people that have, you know, this chemical imbalance in their head where, you know, the receptors, the synapses are not firing correctly, or certain neurotransmitters are not, they're being blocked, or maybe they're being received too much, you know, etc. It's a very complicated thing. There's no tangible problem that's causing it. It's just a problem that exists only in their minds. That could be it. You know, for us, you know, quote-unquote normal people, we can never understand that because our brains, for the most part, are functioning correctly. And while we do get depressed, I'm sure everyone gets depressed at some point. It is as a reaction to something tangible, something that happens in the real world, as opposed to absolutely nothing. It's just you get depressed for no good reason. And that can lead to stuff like suicide. Or maybe it might not have to do with depression at all. It might be some other cause entirely. We will never... It's possible we may never know, but hopefully we might know if they do interviews with his wife. You know, maybe she might say, oh yeah, well, you know, I was cheating on him, so maybe that had something to do with it. No, who knows? But this kind of leads into another topic that I always wanted to talk about, and I guess, you know, now is as good a time as any to discuss it. Should suicide be legal? I mean, if you think about it, like, whenever we're talking about abortion and stuff like that, we always talk a woman has a right to have an abortion because she has autonomy over her body. She has a right to do whatever she wants with her body. Well, by extension, then, doesn't that mean that you should be allowed to harm yourself too if you want to? I mean, you're not hurting anyone else. You're harming yourself, and then by extension of that, you should be allowed to commit suicide. I have a kind of weird friend, I'll use the word friend loosely, who does actually believe in this proposition that people should be allowed to commit suicide. That's one argument in favor for it, that, you know, well, it's our body, we should be allowed to do whatever we want to it. But you could then make the other argument that you are causing harm to other people, you're causing your family and your friends distress, but then someone else could say, well, you know, it's not direct harm, and, you know, your autonomy still overrides that emotional distress that you might cause to others, or maybe the person doesn't have any family and friends and is totally justified in doing it. I will contend that a person who is stuck with a terminal illness, or if they're in constant pain, like maybe they have late-stage rabies, or they have some kind of incurable disease and they're in constant terrible pain, I do believe that that person has a right to end his life. You know, if he wants it, like, look, I'm in so much pain, like my guts are hanging out of my body. Just please end it already. I don't want to suffer anymore. You know, I do believe a person like that has the right to end their life. You know, just that would be actually the humane thing to do. But should people have a right to end their lives at any time? I don't know. I do think, like, there's this anime, I should say manga, called Battle Angel Alita. And at some point in this anime, they introduce this concept of a suicide booth, like a public suicide booth. And it's kind of presenting it in like a satirical way, almost like, because this is like some kind of like utopian society. And they believe that having a public suicide booth is the hallmark of a truly civilized society. And I was thinking about, like, what if we had something like that? What if we had a public suicide booth, too? Would that be so bad? Because if you think about my one argument, it's not really my argument, but, like, if I were to play devil's advocate in favor for this thing, I might say something like, at least with the public suicide booth, we know where they're gonna go. You know, like, as it is right now, we don't know where suicidal people are going to go. They might take a gun and shoot themselves in private. They might go to a bridge. We don't know where they're going to go. At least when there's a public suicide booth that kills them painlessly and quickly, we know where they're going to go. They're going to go to the public suicide booth. So there might be someone there to intercept them and say, hey, can I have a moment of your time? Can I just have 5 minutes of your time so we can talk about this? You know, hey, what's going on? What are your problems? You know, can I help? You know, so that's something, right? I mean, at least we know they're going to go to the public suicide booth. Now, some evil, kind of callous, uncaring, unempathetic people might say, well, there's just going to be people going there that want attention. They just want attention, you know. They're not really going to commit suicide. They're just going to go there because they want attention, because they're so insecure or whatever. And I would say, you know what? Why not give them that attention? I mean, don't we all deserve some attention sometimes as human beings? Don't we deserve to be the focus of attention at some point? I mean, we deserve that. We deserve to be looked at and to be cared about by total strangers even, you know? So that doesn't really bother me that much. But of course, this will never happen because, you know, we would say that's sick. This is demented. You should never have a public suicide booth. Are you crazy? But in all fairness, there has been, there have been experiments with, legal suicide in the past. Namely, in Australia, they had some kind of legal suicide thing going on, but it was only in the case of people who had a terminal illness, where they were going to die anyway. But apparently, they ended that experiment. So. Anyway, post what you think in the comments about the suicide of Dave Mirra and what you think about whether or not suicide should be legal. You know, take into account the bodily autonomy thing, and just let me know what you think because I'm curious. I don't really have a good opinion about this one way or the other, so I'm open to other people's views. This is Enigma Hood signing off.